Okay, thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the North College Hill Rules and Public Policy meeting for Monday, September 9th, 2024. We have our agenda. Do you have a copy of the agenda, Mr. Wilson?
Oh, no, yes, you emailed it to me earlier.
Okay.
I apologize.
I did email everyone a copy. And I'm sorry, our new council member, I'm terrible with names.
I'm Brielle
Last name,
Gaston.
Gaston. It's only going to take me 50 times to ask you that. Ms. Gaston, do you have a copy
I
of
do.
the agenda? Okay.
I do.
And Ms. Zorb, do you have a copy of the agenda?
I did get it, yes.
Okay. So the first thing on the agenda is the marijuana dispensary legislation. That is something that we would need to renew if that was what everyone was interested in doing. And I'm just kind of interested in getting some feedback with regard to that from everyone else. So, Mr. Wilson, what do you think?
I mean, do you have that legislation?
No, I don't have the legislation. We had legislation from last year, so if that was something that everybody wanted to move forward with, I would just update the legislation from last year and then just present it, just present it in the meeting. So I'm just trying to get some feedback with regard to what everyone thinks about just whether we want to renew that or not.
I mean, I definitely would like to take a look at it. I mean, what is it? I have to see it to agree to renew it.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
May I chime in? Do you care?
absolutely, please do.
So the current legislation that's on the books is just, I think it was a 9-month, I want to say 9-month moratorium on marijuana dispensaries being opened within the city limits. So we just did that right before it went legal in January, and it was basically so that the city could kind of wrap our arms around it and understand it better. At that time, the state didn't really have a full grasp of how they wanted to handle it, so we thought we wanted to kind of batten down the hatches for a little while just to make sure that we had our ducks in a row before we opened up the city to having dispensaries. That moratorium has either expired or it's really, really close to expiring.
That's correct.
So the Planning Commission asked us to extend that a little bit longer so that they have time to, now that the state has gotten their deal together, now the Planning Commission can take a little bit longer to understand what the state's criteria are in order for us to create our criteria or ban, however we want to proceed. But the Planning Commission would like a little bit more time to figure it out, what their recommendation is before they even send it to us. That's the way I understood it from the Planning Commission meeting that I went to.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
yes.
So, but
Make
the
sure you
information
speak into
that
the
you,
microphone.
so the information that you're asking, I mean, so are you asking me, do we want to extend that moratorium or?
Yes, that's what I'm asking. So
Okay.
that's what the,
All right.
that's what the previous legislation was.
I would think it would be in our best interest to extend it, to give them more time to look at it and find out how it benefits or don't benefit.
Okay. And Ms. Gaston, I know you're not a member of the committee. However, I did invite you to the meeting. I would like your input as well.
I would like a little more time to go over the information, just like Mr. Wilson mentioned before voting.
And Ms. Zorb, you just kind of described it, but you didn't really say what you thought.
Well, because I wanted it to kind of present it as a blank slate and not put my opinion in. So now I'll put my opinion in. The question at hand is, do we want to extend it? And I would say yes, we need to my opinion would be to extend the moratorium until we can get a better grip on it.
Okay.
Now, the long-term question, I think, is a little more complicated. Actually, that's why I was late, because I was looking at the Board of Elections and I lost track of time. When I looked at the Board of Elections results for North College Hill on the marijuana issue, it's right at every precinct. I think we have 7 precincts. They were all, one was at 69%, all the rest were above 70. So, passing.
Oh, okay.
So, I get conflicted because as we sit up here, we're supposed to represent our citizens. Clearly, that's our citizens' point of view. But then there is the other issue of what's best for the city. So we also have to take that into consideration. And I think I would want to hear from our police department from that perspective. And clearly from the zoning, like where would we, if we were to allow these places, where would we want them? Probably not by schools, probably not by daycares, probably, you know what I mean? Those kind of limitations. I don't know. I'm really conflicted on how I would vote for that long term.
Okay. So,
But my immediate answer is yes, I would like to extend it.
okay,
How's
so
that?
I'll just update the previous legislation, present it to, kind of send it to Mr. Hedger for the next council meeting agenda, and then we can refer it back to committee, so at least we've gotten through one reading. I actually drove around and kind of looked at some of the dispensaries around the county to see what they look like. And there are no, like, there's no windows so that you can see inside or what's going on inside. And there were, like, there was 2 levels of security before you could even walk inside. So there's somebody standing at this door asking you for an ID to make sure that you're the correct age. And then they're scanning it with one of those machines to make sure it's actually a legit ID. And then you go to a second door, same thing. So I think, and if you didn't know what it was, you wouldn't know what it was. So, but I respect that everybody wants to kind of get some more information about it. I think probably a better gauge would be kind of to look at where they are in other communities to see if there's some kind of increase in crime or increase in any kind of repercussions around it. So, I think that that's a fair assessment to see because we have a small community, so. Okay.
Might I add one more tidbit that further confuses my decision? Is I heard on the news tonight, and I'm trying to remember the exact number, but I think they said in the first month they have seen $54 million in revenue from sales.
That is why I was against the moratorium, because if that is the number, we get a percentage of that for taxes.
Right.
And that could be a huge impact to our city.
So let's go down that rabbit hole for just a quick second. And I know this isn't finance, but there's also, I don't know how that part gets handled, because at the federal level, it's still illegal.
It's illegal, yes.
So how do we as a city get money from something that's illegal on the federal level? So I would like to hear all of that part too, because it
Okay.
sounds a little tricky. I don't know.
I don't have the answer to that. I do know, obviously, that there's
Madam
That-
Chair.
yes, Mr. Wilson.
So, why would it be? So, first of all, the state of Ohio made it legal. So, when that revenue it will come from the state of Ohio, because they're the one that's collecting the tax revenue correctly. correct?
I don't know how it works. We would have to check on that. We would have to figure that out. I just know that we're talking about a lot of money.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, you know, let's just pay attention here for a second here. We're talking about right now the state of Ohio legalized it. So I will think that they will be the ones responsible for the taxation or the distribution of the funding that come from that, because the federal level has not legalized it. So they're not even involved. They're not coming down and saying, Ohio, you can't do that because it's not legal on the federal level. So I think that it would be yet. You're
So
correct.
far.
So far, because have heard a lot of talk about legalizing it and changing the level of it on the federal level. So
Right. So, well, it hasn't been done yet.
yeah,
So
but
it's just,
but I would
so
think
it's just-
that at the time, right now, until then, I think that will come down to the states dispensing that revenue
Right.
from the sales of so.
right. So, there's there's a lot to consider for sure. And I think a moratorium, I wouldn't want to extend it too far, but I think a moratorium is reasonable. Or extending it, until we can get some more information about it is reasonable. So I will add that to my to-do list. So next on the agenda are speed humps. And I did receive information from several individuals about where we might place those. I think the big square ones that we see on North Bend Road are not the ones that I would recommend. I think those, the ones that are by the stop sign downtown on 12th Street, kind of the ones, I think there's some, those rubber ones with the yellow lines, the ones that actually make people slow down before they go over them. I think that that's what I would recommend. And apparently we don't actually need to write legislation. We just need to make a motion to advise administration to buy those speed humps. That's my understanding. So I know Mr. Huffman is here. He wanted to have some input on that.
Yes, ma'am. So, as you said, we have more knowledge with putting in the black and yellow speed humps. We've done them for the school. We have them on some of our streets. They seem to be effective. I will agree to that. The only real input that I have with the stop signs is that I spoke with DOTE Cincinnati, who did the 13th Street speed stop, and more so it's just making sure that we don't repeat their failures with their use of it, and that we look at their failures as our advantage in making the decisions of where to put them, such as on one ways or two ways. I just have some small back and forth emails that I printed off with them. Just that way we can, do it effectively our first try and not the 10th try like they've had to.
Okay, fair enough.
And that's pretty much all that I really have to say about it. Any
But
further discussion
what
or
do you
question?
think about it?
So I don't have a problem with them. I think they could be used in a very good way because we have seen good results, even with the speed counters on roads that have speed bumps. The biggest worry that I have is mainly with my drivers and my department during the wintertime. These things are costly. The speed bumps are costly. It's hard to see sometimes late at night on a 16, 8-hour, 10-hour shift after working your regular shift. So if we could find some way of where we put these of notifications and understanding that we may do some excess damage to these during the winter, I think is one of my biggest concerns because it will become a hazard to my drivers out there. The second thing that I have a concern about, and when I spoke with DOTE, is they specifically chose a one-way street to put their finalized idea of the project into. And the reason why they did this is they noticed that drivers would drive around them in four-way intersections getting into wrecks.
Right.
So if that's something that we could try to find and work with the residents and ourselves to see maybe which one-ways until we figure out a better plan for maybe a full square, intersection would be another idea that, we could definitely, look into some other options, maybe some other type of barriers or rumble strips, or just seeing what's out there. But as far as that goes, those are really the two main things that I worry about in clearing those intersections during the winter. We plow curb to curb, edge to edge, as long as cars are not parked there. So clearing an intersection would become very, very difficult for us. So if we could just figure out a strategy of somewhere how to blend all those together to where we can make it happen, I think that would be the best way for the city and for ourselves.
Okay. Fair enough. So what if we just find one of the intersections that's just really probably the most egregious?
I say
one,
go
and
for
just
it.
Stop. Right. Stop.
I would suggest two of them.
Okay.
I would suggest two, maybe on opposite sides of the town, or, where we have school traffic, or, we have these high speeding rates that you've gotten feedback from. And then we put the speed counter there, maybe in the middle and see, okay, we know they're going 10 miles an hour after the speed bump, so clearly they rolled through it.
Right.
Or, oh, well, it didn't trigger it, but we have a car reading. The speed was low enough that it didn't trigger it. It just counted the car. So, hey, they probably stopped.
Okay.
But I would suggest two of them. Definitely get the feedback of where everybody would like to see them. And we have no problems ordering a couple and seeing about getting some down.
Okay. I think that sounds really like a reasonable, and Chief Cheney just arrived, so I'm going to ask him his opinion once he gets settled. Did somebody else? Okay. So Chief Cheney, we're talking about speed humps.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm on a mission right now.
I know you
so
are.
I am.
We're supporting you.
Yeah, I'm
We just got to get there in a reasonable way.
right. I just so I've gotten some feedback from Mr. Huffman. I think it's good feedback. It's not a no. It's just can we try it this way? And I like that. I like that answer a lot.
Right.
So what do you think?
I'm on board with him. We've had several meetings about it. We even discussed, I don't know if you mentioned, sorry I'm late. I had the DAV was at the police station doing their meeting. So that's where I was at. So, we did get the $9,500 grant for traffic stuff. So maybe some of that could be used to put some temporary ones down to look at that. We know it's an issue. I mean, let's face it. Traffic, I think since COVID is an issue everywhere, no one seems to obey the traffic laws anymore, no matter where you live. It's insane. So,
Okay, so I think, like I said, I did get a lot of suggestions about stop signs that are really problematic. So maybe what we can do is talk to Mr. Huffman about that list that I have, which I don't seem to have in front of me right now, but just maybe talk to you about that list that I've received, and maybe we can start with 2 streets to see if that, stops the people kind of breezing through those stop signs.
We have La Boida and Bising and Noble, Sunday on Catalpa, and Clovernook and Norman were the ones that you had on your list so far.
That is absolutely correct, and I did get one more
Yes,
in an
ma'am.
email. I just don't recall what it was.
Yes, ma'am. And I also know that Councilman Wilson had expressed on Savannah towards the guardrail at the dead end of it past Good Brothers Bar was another area to look at actually putting in a full-length stop or speed humps down there, as the residents down there have come to him with complaints about that. So that is something that moving forward, when we do our next speed control, we're going to put it down there. So just something when we place this order to keep in mind of possibly adding those on too.
Okay, sounds good. Did you have of the streets that you mentioned? Were there 2 that just kind of jumps out at you?
I have not yet. I was actually going to get with Chief Cheney later this week once we had our discussions here and move forward with it and see where his officers and where we also notice and where the residents have really said, hey, this is the spot.
What about Center Ridge? Somebody just sent me a message.
we could also look at the crash data and see if there's any areas that have, I know Savannah, and Sterling, Savannah, and Waltham area have had some crashes at night, people leaving. So that could be one of the areas we could look at.
Madam Chair.
I can make suggestions or not.
Absolutely. You stand up to the microphone and state your name.
And your address.
Name and address, please.
Jay Bishop, Kleindale Avenue. I would like to recommend the speed bump on Hamilton in front of Dollar General.
Actually-
Coming down the hill,
Yeah,
College Hill.
I've heard that.
And actually, College Hill is doing us a disservice because they got speed humps down there, but then and it's 25, but there's a few blocks, it's 35
Right.
miles an hour in between College Hill and North College Hill.
Right.
So they're still going 35 coming into our city.
Right, that's
And they're
true.
actually speeding up, and then they're going downhill.
Right,
And then the other one on Hamilton Avenue I would suggest would be just past the school, headed towards Mount Healthy.
okay.
Because as soon as they get through that light, they start speeding up, heading into Mount Healthy to get through there. Anyhow, that's just my suggestion as far as if you want to put two on a road. I know Savannah, farther down in College Hill in Savannah, they have speed humps already
Right.
on Savannah. So they are slowing people down through there. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yes. No worries.
I think it's going. I haven't heard that it's not going.
Okay. Oh, we must be streaming because I just got a message.
Yeah, someone told her Center.
Yeah, Center Ridge.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so we're right at the end of our time. Mr. Wilson, did you have? Okay.
Think about it later.
So it looks like I think what we're gonna do, because I didn't get a no, I like that. We're gonna start with 2 streets to see how that goes. And, so that, we can try to slow down some of the speeders. The other thing on the agenda is just old business. I keep on there for, just to make sure it stays at the top of the agenda. And I don't think, I sent copies of the planning commission recommendations, and then I didn't put it on the agenda. That was weird.
You said you sent a copy of it?
I did. I
That's the
attached,
other-
oh, you know
yeah.
what? I put it on public safety instead.
Okay.
Okay. It's not really public safety, it's supposed to be rules and public policy, but, so I will, what I'll do is I will add that to the next agenda if everyone can just review what the planning commission, what their recommendations are. Is there any new business? So I have my action items, and so it is 6:29, and I will adjourn the Rules and Public Policy meeting at this time.
Look at you, right on time.
Good evening, and welcome to the North College Hill Public Safety Meeting for Monday, September 9th, 2024. So on our agenda, I'm going to start with Police Department updates. We have Chief Cheney with us this evening, and I'll ask him to just give us an update on what's going on with the Police Department.
Okay. So, a lot of good things. I want to give you our August numbers and then the first 6 months. I know it's a little late, but we haven't had meetings and stuff, so kind of give you guys an idea of what we're doing. So for August, we had 138 offenses, which are like a criminal case. And out of those 138, we made 70 arrests. We had 19 traffic accidents. We wrote 103 citations with 66 warnings. And then we had 940 calls for service. It was additional, on top of that, we had 871 daily activities, which are like business checks and directed patrols that our officers do, vacation checks, so.
Pardon me. Chief Cheney, could you send those to me electronically and I can just add those
Yeah,
stats?
yeah, I can, yep,
Thank you, because I caught some of them and I did not.
no
count them.
problem. I
Thank
can
you
do
so
that.
much.
Yep. So then I broke down the first 6 months, January through June for you guys. So offenses, we had 716. I mean, 394 arrests in those 6 months. Responded to 185 traffic accidents. We wrote 719 tickets, 379 warnings, and we responded to 5,653 calls for service.
Oh my gosh.
And if you I didn't have a chance because the DAV guys showed up, so I wanted to get with them and do their meeting. So I apologize. I was going to break down that number because, as you guys know, we have been short-staffed the entire year. So basically, that 5,653 calls were done by about 9 officers. So that's a lot of work. Like I said, in I think July meeting, it's about 15 calls. Back then in July, it was about 15 calls per officer per shift, which is in a 12-hour shift. It's a call
lot.
shift.
Yeah.
So on top of that, they also on their own did additional 5,367 daily activities, which are business checks and directed patrols. So our guys stay busy constantly. I do have an update. An arrest was made on the felonious assault case from 1385 West Galbraith, where a young lady was shot. One arrest is made, another one's coming, so that'll be closed out. Our National Night Out and Back to School event was phenomenal. Whoever came, I appreciate you coming. It was a great turnout. The kids loved it. I think the families loved it, so it'll be something we're going to do every year with the school. And just a couple other updates on training. In October, our guys are going to, every single one of our officers is going to go to a fighting chance seminar. So back in December of 2021, there was a gunman that went wild in the city of Denver and Lakewood. It's basically a mass shooting, shot several people, 5 died. One of the police officers who responded to the scene, who was also shot, and then she turned around and killed the shooter, is the keynote speaker. So she talks about the trauma and that event. So all of our guys are going to go to that. In October, we're also doing a joint training with Coleraine, Mount Healthy, on an active shooter drill at Clover Neck Center for the Blind on the weekends. So when you see police cars there in October, just know it's us. We're doing a drill with them. So that'll be something I'm trying to do, is more training with our guys, especially with the joining agencies. We all know, since we're all small, we're all short-staffed, that when something major happens, everybody shows up. You know, Coleraine, Mount Healthy, we're all there Friday night for us, so can't thank them enough for that. And then in November, we are doing a 6-hour block, which each officer is going to meet with our clinician that was here in December to talk to you guys about PTSD and everything for officers. She's going to do 2 6-hour blocks with our officers for some training there. So
Wonderful. Thank you
that's
so
it.
much.
Yep.
Thank you very much for that update.
Yep.
So we did receive a report from the fire department. I don't see Chief Plackey here, so I'm just gonna kind of, actually, I'm gonna skip that for the moment, because Mr. Huffman is here, who is the Public Works Director, and he has provided us with a couple of reports. Would you like to share those with us, please?
Yes, ma'am. So Public Works has stayed pretty steady and pretty busy the past couple months. We've been experiencing some pretty dry weather, so our grass cutting has been cut down, which is good. It's allowed us to get into some of these drains with our sweeper truck, start clearing out these drains of debris and soil and trash. Over the past month and a half, we've cleaned out just a little under 30 different drains. It may not sound like a number, but some of these are packed pretty full and require a lot of hand shoveling and digging to get some of this stuff broke up. We've continued with our street sweeping schedule around the city. We've even come in at 4 a.m. and blown off the sidewalks, Hamilton, Galbraith, and Goodman, and had our street sweeper come behind then. We're still watering flowers every day with the water trailer that we have rented. We are continuing to make progress on updating all of our signage around the city. Right now, we have replaced over 32 stop signs. We've placed 162 no parking fire lane signs across the city, and we're continuing to make headway. In July, we finished up our street painting for the year. We were able to do the double yellows on most of our streets. Once Galbraith is paved next year, it will drastically reduce a lot of our painting, as a lot of it is being made into permanent. So they will not fade as fast, and we'll have longer times to where we won't have to paint and can focus on other areas. Here recently, we've actually just gotten back our international dump truck from Rush Trucking. We've put a fresh coat of spray paint on the area so it looks nice and new, ready for winter. We've been practicing in the back part of our shop with cones and plows on, getting ready for the winter. So we're doing a little bit of snow and ice training, making sure that everybody's up to snuff on that. And everything has pretty much just been business as usual. As problems arise, we take care of them. Here recently, we have noticed an uptick in dumping in our alleys. Mattresses, tires, fencing supplies, landscaping material. So we do ask the residents that if you see any of this taking place, that you please call us or the police department, and they will notify us so we can get it cleaned up. And we've had several trees come down over the past couple of months. Catalpa, Alley G had a couple. It was looking pretty rough. We still have some potholes that we have to finish up over there. We've had one on Simpson that we had to come down. We had to bring a contractor in to help us out with that, as it was on the power lines. But other than that, Public Works is moving forward at a steady pace, and we're keeping up with everything. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I have a question, if you don't
Yes.
mind. Mr. Huffman, I cannot tell you how, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. The street sweeper. I love that I saw the street sweeper came down my street again today. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I do have one follow-up with that, though. At one point, we used to put up no parking signs and make everyone move their stuff and do a thorough cleaning. And I notice we don't do that now. We just kind of go around cars. Do you think there's ever a chance where we'll get back to that, to get at least maybe once a year to get a full, thorough cleaning?
Yes, ma'am. We can definitely get back to that. Right now, it's just been, like you said, it's been a cleaning that we can get to what we can get. But yeah, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that 2 or 3 times a year. You know, maybe a good right after fall, a spring, summer, and a fall cleaning, and I don't see a problem with that at all.
That would be awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, and
Madam Chair.
he did bring me the reports. I can give everyone a copy. I'll scan them in and email you a copy from Mr. Huffman.
Okay.
Yes,
You just said he, and we've had three.
I did. Mr. Huffman, he gave them to me, so I just, I had already come and sent out the agenda, so I'll make sure everyone gets his reports that he gave to me. Yes, Mr. Wilson.
I had a question for Mr. Hoffman.
Oh, of course.
Mr. Hoffman, the trees and the power lines on city side, sidewalk, how is that handled? How do we get someone to trim them back out of the power lines?
So usually we file a complaint with Duke.
Okay.
Duke comes around with a contractor every so often, and that's when you kind of see the trees are essentially just butchered right down the middle.
So
But for us to get, like, if you have a complaint or a resident has a complaint like one right now, which is in our easement that says there's a power line going through it, my initial step is to reach out to Duke and say, hey, we have some wires and trees that we're concerned about. They'll send out a supervisor, and they'll get back with me, unfortunately, whenever they do.
So we don't have them annually come out and check these lines? Just checking annually just to make sure that these trees are not in or damaging our power lines?
That's totally up to them. They own the power lines. We do not.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Huffman. So I did get a report from Chief Plackey. And I'm just going to kind of go through it. Just, let's see. I guess they had 260 incidents in August, 2.7% fire calls, 75.4% were EMS calls, and 21.9% were other calls, which represented a 7.5 increase in total run volume, and then a 4.5% increase in total run volume from last year at the same time. Then they just gave us an update. We're still working on getting the memorandum of understanding complete for part-time personnel. The process to fill the fire inspector code enforcement position is ongoing, so they're looking for someone to fill that role. And then they've also posted jobs for full-time firefighters, paramedics, and they do have multiple applications that were submitted, so they're working on that as well. They're planning for the budget for next year, and they will get, we'll have some updates when they've completed that. They've renewed all of their grant applications that were renewable on an annual basis, so they've done that as well. And they're also evaluating the EMS billing return for 2024. They plan to paint fire hydrants. So Mr. Huffman, is that something you guys work on together?
I've not been made aware of that yet. I will get with Chief Plackey and find out.
Okay. And then they're talking about, maintenance to their 2 ambulances. We have one that was a 2019 ambulance, and they've got some repairs that they plan to do for that. And then we have the 2024 ambulance, and they've got some warranty work that are going to, that has to happen for that. And they said that the number of repairs needed has decreased, and they said he attributes that to the work that their in-house fleet maintenance team has provided. They have regular training, which is ongoing, and he says that there's a collaboration with Midwest fire chiefs. They met and they're collaborating on some things, and they're working on the next round of federal, state, and local level grant opportunities, and private foundation grants as well. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so let's see. Okay, we talked about speed humps. Is there, well, since it's 6:45, so we do have a couple of extra minutes. Does anybody did everybody have an opportunity to review the Planning Commission recommendations?
What this guy did?
It's not a problem. It's supposed to be on the other agenda anyway, so.
This is the marijuana moratorium again, right?
No, so the Planning Commission kind of sent a bunch of recommendations. They would like for us to, it's definitely more rules and public policy based, but they would like for us to do a complete review of the current zoning code. They would like for us to create a temporary moratorium on all new construction and development until the zoning code is reviewed and revised. The creation of an annual vacant building license. And they have reasonings for all of these recommendations. A property maintenance program to be under the supervision of the Public Works Director. I wonder if you heard that, of course. So, increase the number of property maintenance officers. Revise current citation policy relative to property maintenance to be similar to parking violation citations. Create a property maintenance court. So that's, that would be interesting. They recommend that we send a right of first refusal request to several property owners that may be critically positioned in North College Hill. So there are several owners that they are recommending that we do that for. That would assume that we would be able to, I don't know. So I guess that's something we can further discuss. And then it was signed by all the members of the Planning Commission. Does anybody have any questions about that? So obviously that's something we need to kind of further explore. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's a different meeting.
Yeah, Jay Bishop, Kleindale Avenue. You referred something about property owners.
Yes.
I'm not sure what that entailed, but I was kind of thinking that it might be speaking about Vinebrook Properties or something. I don't know if that's been an issue brought up before, but
It has not, it has not been formally brought up, but it is something that is on the radar. But
Okay.
what they were recommending is maybe properties that people plan to sell. And I'm just not necessarily,
Madam Chair,
yes,
word of caution, we're in an open meeting.
I know. That's why I'm just being cautious about what I'm saying.
Thank you.
That's why I described it in the
Yeah.
way that it was
and
described.
I understand, and I probably didn't need to be
No,
as
you're fine.
specific, but that was just something that was brought to my attention.
Right, it's just that Vinebrook that's a kind of different issue. That's just one of the property owners that owns a lot of property in North College Hill, like a lot. So,
Yeah, we're close to 500
oh my gosh. So, yeah, that's,
in North College Hill. They own over 400 properties.
yes, so,
There's not a good chance for home buyers when all that is being rented out.
yeah.
And,
So, that is something that's kind of, that's been floated around, but that's not what I was referring to right
Okay.
there. But
All
that-
right. Well,
that-
thank you for
yeah.
entertaining my question.
No problem. I will definitely kind of put that on under new business, maybe. Okay, so speaking of new business, one issue that I was asked to discuss on our agenda was security at the car show. However, I'm not really certain what the issue is, but I know that there is someone here who might know.
Kathy Carrington, 6718 Devonwood Drive, and I never want to preface it as an issue. I want to preface it as a concern.
Okay.
So this has just been crazy. We had a school shooting, God forbid, Lord. We had a shooting at the football game, but we did have a school shooting in Georgia. And there's just been a lot going on, and then with the terroristic threats from the kids at all the school districts last Thursday, Friday. So my concern was in relationship to, and this is really not for Chief Cheney. This is really for y'all, primarily because this was not an event sponsored by the police department. Thank God they're here. Thank God they are present, but they are short-staffed. So this question is more for council. When there are city-sponsored events, i.e. the car show, i.e. Juneteenth, and anything else, i.e. Of Food Truck Friday, what do we have in place that will keep our citizens safe? One major concern that I saw, was that there was a lone citizen sitting at the barricade. And I was just wondering, like, was he appointed? Did he just volunteer to do it? Why was he sitting there all to himself? And unfortunately, he was not super attentive as to what was happening. And at the time of many citizens walking up and down Galbraith, fire got a call, EMS got a call. There was a lot of traffic. So again, we want to do things in a preventable way to not have to go back and God forbid. So this is really for council. What are we going to do for city-sponsored events to make sure everyone stays safe?
Okay. I think that that's something we definitely will need to kind of brainstorm about. So I think, we'll have to brainstorm like kind of what we would need to do, if we would need to get extra people, or how we would need to address that specific issue, because you're absolutely right. We do want to make sure that everybody stays safe at city-sponsored events. Does anyone else have any other new business that we need to discuss?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to make sure people are aware that I know the school or the football game gets lumped in with what occurred on Friday night, but the shooting was completely separate and isolated event from the school. It had thankfully nothing to do with the school. School event was not a target. It was just a random act of violence that took place. So I want to make sure people know that. So, and we also did meet this afternoon with the school board, or not school board member. I think a couple of them might have actually been there, but superintendent and all the administrators to kind of talk about that and do a debrief. And they were very pleased with the police response. So just put that out there.
Okay, well, I would like to say thank you very much, Chief Cheney, for that. It is certainly gratifying to hear that, something happened, you guys responded, and there's been an arrest made already.
No arrest yet, but it is an open investigation.
Okay, so we just, we're very gratified for your hard work.
We're
Okay,
here for you guys, so for everybody.
you.
Yep.
Any other new business? Okay, so I have my action items, and I'm going to add dumping in alleys to that action item as well. I don't know how those cameras work, like the pole cameras or something, but maybe there's some kind of way we can do that could maybe capture license plates or something of the people who are the perpetrators who are just kind of dumping stuff over there. So, and I have some ideas about that as well. So if that's it, then it is 6:55, and I will adjourn.
It is now 7 o'clock. Time for the Community Recreation and Development meeting. So I will have to add an amendment to my agenda, but I would like to start this meeting off with a report from the Recreation Director.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. I just wanted to let everyone know I missed last week's committee meetings. I was actually out on vacation, so I was not in town for the last week's meeting, but I did send last month's report electronically out to the whole group. And then I also sent this week's report, or this month's report, a couple days ago to the committee and council. So I just want to make sure everyone was aware. Generally, recreation has been very busy with city events, including the car show and getting ready for Fall Family Festival, which is happening on October 26th. That is a Saturday. We have received a grant, a mini grant from Hamilton County Planning and Development to help promote and expand the vendor fair for that event, which will include more local vendors, as well as we're inviting North College Hill local businesses to participate and local community service agencies to participate. And we have worked with Frickers to use part of their parking lot for the vendor fair. And so that'll be a great event. And we're also going to have additional, they call them extreme attractions, but some fun stuff for the kids to do at the event. So that'll be exciting. We are also going to have something new this year, which is a quiet play area for the children who live in our community who maybe would enjoy more quiet activities but still want to get out and have fun with their friends, but may be easily overwhelmed by those kinds of activities. So we're going to have a quiet play zone for them as well. So that'll be nice. As a mother of a child who would have greatly appreciated that, I'm glad we're incorporating that this year. I did want to go back to the car show for just a little bit. I do want to give a huge shout out to the Krimmer family. They have been fantastic for the last 2 years helping us organize this event. And they do most of the heavy lifting on the day of. We do barricade Galbraith Road as we've done for many, many years. We can't barricade it completely because if cars are arriving and they're actually in the show, we have to be able to let them in. So so that's why that is. And we had 5 food trucks participate this year, and we had, what did I write down here? About 190 cars, which is about 50 more than we've had last year, which I think even last year was our largest turnout for that event in many, many years. So it's growing. We're going to have some conversations about next year in terms of where we're going to put everybody. But we also estimate that just general foot traffic to the Galbraith Road Business District was probably in the neighborhood of 2,000 to 3,000 people, some of which are residents, some of which were coming from out of town. This event draws people from all over, not just locally. I want to say last year we had cars from as far away as like Toledo, Cleveland, Tennessee, who participate in our event. So it's a really exciting event for the city. Stapleton Park rededication was August 25th. That park the equipment was in desperate need of repair or replacement. Not repair, it was too old to be repaired. But we, again, were the recipients of a very generous grant from Hamilton County Public Health that helped us renovate that park. And we put in all new equipment. I did find out kind of at the 11th hour that Stapleton family was still in the area. So we had an opportunity to invite them to participate. And it was like the Stapleton family reunion. It was great. They had a great time. The kids were there. They were playing with the neighborhood kids, sidewalk chalk, playing on the equipment. It was a good time. It was a lot of fun. And we were able to rededicate that park to Mr. Stapleton. And the mayor read a proclamation. Everybody had a really good time. They were just thrilled to be invited. And one other thing I did want to mention, 2 things actually. The 513 relief bus will be returning to North College Hill on Saturday, the 14th. That is this coming Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It'll be in the parking lot at the 1500 building. When it's nicer weather, they need to have their events outside. And this parking lot is obviously way too small, for a bus and all the other agencies that they have come. So we're going to have it at the 1500 building instead this time. And the other thing we're going to have is a drive-through recycling event. This time it will be e-cycling or tech trash, as some people like to call it. If you've got old monitors, cabling, audiovisual equipment, things like that, that event will be on the 21st, which is also a Saturday from 10 to 12. You don't even have to get out of your car Just bring your stuff and we will unload it, and we'll take it down to the Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub to be recycling or responsibly disposed of. So that does not create an issue for the landfill. And I think that's all. Oh, and as far as this building is concerned, we are moving forward. The building access control system has been installed. I am waiting on getting that scheduled for training. Once that happens, all the people who are in need of a code to access the building will be assigned one. And just keep in mind, please, that I have probably about 15 or 20 people who have to be updated whenever anything happens to this building. So please check your email. I will be sending email updates when that is ready and when we need you to come in and get your code. So please watch your email for that. And I think that's all I have.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Ms. Claire, I don't know if this is directed to you or Mr. Huffman, but I was wondering if perhaps between the two of you, we could get some of these ceiling tiles along that wall fixed there.
Yeah, I've got somebody.
Looking a little shabby over there.
Yeah, so Ms. Clear actually does have somebody in the works. Public Works did do a temporary fix back in February where we actually anchored all of them to the wall. Since we added cameras and everything, it has added more weight to them.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on. We now have the trash can update. I'm gonna let Mr. Hoffman take it from here, just to give you a brief. The paperwork that I passed off is the plan that we came up with. So this is what Mr. Hoffman is going to explain.
Good evening. So over the past couple of weeks, give or take a month or so, we have tossed around the idea of new trash cans around the city to try to help reduce some of the litter. Currently, right now, we have 39 active trash cans that we pick up 3 times a week throughout the city. They are in pretty rough shape right now. Some of them don't even have lids in some of the parks. Some of them have cracks down them. During heavy rains, you can actually see the trash liquids seeping out the bottoms onto sidewalks, into storm drains, and so forth. So me and Councilman Wilson have come up together with a tentative plan and get everyone's kind of thoughts and ideas on. It's a 3-year plan to start with the parks, replacing and adding new trash cans. We have 3 different styles. We sat down with one that we picked out, which is a pretty common one found in most cities that are pretty durable. They have ashtrays on top of them to essentially go before tax and delivery of the trash cans to our shop. For just the parks alone, you're looking at about $10,200 for the first year and replacing trash cans, along with adding a couple through there. What would essentially happen is we would remove all the old trash cans, we would bolt these down to the concrete or some way into the ground so they can no longer be tipped over or damaged. Following that, kind of a 1 to 2 year plan if they can be done. We're looking at phase 2, which would be tackling Galbraith Road. Galbraith Road, you're looking at about $12,750. In total right now, there are 15 trash cans on Galbraith Road. We are looking to increase that up to 18 to 20 with adding places such as Burger King, the corners of Goodman and Galbraith, Hamilton and Galbraith at the crosswalk on the Walgreens side, right where we took over with the landscaping. So that would be step 2 in our plan. Step 3 would to be focused on Hamilton Avenue. We currently have 10 trash cans along this route, which we're looking to add 3 more. I would place 2 of the new cans at the crosswalks at Hamilton and Ronald Reagan by the off-ramps, as we have foot traffic that come under the overpass. When we mow grass, it takes us about 3 hours to pick litter down there before we can even cut. Another one, with the new store coming in here, we would obviously place an additional trash can in front of there. That way when people are leaving the drive-through or maybe walking out to school, they can have a trash can right there to throw their trash away in. Another one would to be add an additional trash can in front of UDF on Hamilton Avenue. This is another hot spot where it blows over into the empty lots across the way and across Hamilton Avenue into Valvoline's down the road. So maybe to help prevent some litter spots there. At the end of the day, for that one, you're looking at $11,000 with the trash cans that we picked out. In total, we would go from 39 trash cans to give or take to 43 trash cans, depending on where we decided to go, for a total of $34,000. It's my recommendation that after we do all this and with council's consideration and input, that we look at getting 50 trash cans in total to replace any that may arrive broken, may be broke within the first couple months of us putting them out there. Just kind of put this rough draft together of a plan to get the idea out there, see where everybody stands, and see how everybody's feeling about going forward with certain things and what times we're looking at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Any questions for him?
Mr. Chair.
Ms.
So-
Zort?
Mr. Huffman, is the reason you're staggering this over a 3-year plan, is that due to manpower issues or budgeting issues?
That would be due to the high cost. That is not something that my budget could handle in 1 year's time.
So if we increase your budget, could it be in 1 year's time?
Yeah.
And I guess the follow-up question to that, do you have the manpower? If we add that many additional trash cans, do you have the manpower to empty that many trash cans?
Yes, ma'am. So right now, on our Monday, Wednesday, Friday pickups, if we have our one individual, Derek, who is in charge of the trash cans, he usually goes around those 3 days, but he also does extra runs if he gets a complaint. Usually, I would have to get with him to find out the specific number, but I'm going to say probably about an hour and a half to 2.5 hours a day are spent doing that, while others who are not helping him do this are out picking litter at the same time. Manpower getting the trash cans out there and getting them replaced, it's an easy thing for us to get done. When you're already emptying 39 cans, another 5 is really not going to hurt us.
All right. I don't know how the rest of council feels, but I'd like to do it in one fell swoop. But that's just my opinion.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Alexander?
is there any way, Mr. Huffman, that we can see what the trash cans look like?
On the back of the
it's
page,
right
there are 3 different types.
Sorry, I was so concentrating on the numbers that I didn't
So
even see the page.
the first one is the ones that are a pretty common sturdy type that you can find in city of Cincinnati,
Right.
Springfield Townships, many different areas. I recommend a 35-gallon out of this particular size, so that way it can handle the amount of trash load that we have. It would be actually an increase from what we have now by about 5 gallons. We're not looking to go oversized to where they kind of stand out as an eyesore, but we want them to be noticeable. So that kind of falls right in the
Okay.
ballpark with that, along with having, if you choose the option, the ashtray on top to maybe eliminate some of the cigarette butts and stuff found around the bus stops.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Zort?
So you put in that caveat of around the bus stops, but I would like to point out that I'm fairly confident that we have a no smoking ordinance for the parks. So not that the ashtray option isn't nice, but people shouldn't be smoking in our parks around the kids because we have an ordinance to prevent it.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother subject here.
So will we be able to handle the issue by just applying the garbage cans without the cigarette units in the parks?
The reality of it is, if people are smoking, I would rather have them put the cigarette butts in the ashtray.
Because they're
I
going
was
to
just
continue
kind of
smoking anyway.
pointing it
regardless.
out that
Okay.
they shouldn't be.
I
How's
just wanna
that?
make sure.
How's
Yes,
that?
ma'am. I just want to make sure. Any more questions? Any more questions for Mr. Hoffman? All right, thank you, Mr. Hoffman. I appreciate it. So we're gonna move on to the next agenda, next item on my agenda, which is the food trucks. Food Truck Friday is back. It's every first and third Friday of the month. We will have 2 different entrees, 1 dessert truck. I want to thank Mr. Hoffman. Once again, I do apologize for the non-notification of the cancellation for the 6th. I apologize. That won't happen again. But thank you again for putting out the items for us. Like I said, it has returned. So it's every first and third Friday of the month. If anybody would like to participate, all you have to do is email me. Any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
did you get the signs? I had pulled all the signs that were in the closet
Yes,
from
I have
previous
them.
Food Truck Fridays, and I put them in the hall. You got those?
Yes, ma'am, I
Okay,
have
all
them.
right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. So if there's no more questions on the food truck, we will move on to the next item on my agenda, which is the party in the park. It's a rough update. We're still working on calculations, trying to put this together on what it will cost and where we will host the venue at. So it is in works. Any questions? We'll move on to the next item of my agenda, which is the fireworks show 2025. I haven't had a most recent update, but we're still working on it. I think Mr. Hoffman, you gave me some slight information the other day, and like I said, we haven't had a chance to sit down and punch it and put it together, but it is, in process. We are working on it. So other than that, we are looking to try and make this happen.
Mr. Chair,
Ms.
is
Alexander.
it still July 3rd, or
Yes.
is that still the projected date?
July
Okay.
3rd, 2025.
Do we have a time, sundown?
No, we don't have a time, and we still haven't
Okay.
pinpointed our location. But we're working on that. We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna figure it out.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Zork.
I have a whole lot of questions around this fireworks thing. And I'm sorry, I guess it was discussed at the last committee meeting, which I was not present. So like, what are we talking about for a budget, and where are we getting that money? Are we getting sponsors? How are you handling liability? Who's shooting off the fireworks? I have tons of questions.
So, then, Mr. Hoffman, you like to take this? I mean,
I really don't have any information on it besides just kind of what I did for the public works, as far as like looking at like light towers, potentially from speaking with Coleraine Township. As far as who's setting them off or anything like that, I have no information on any of that.
and as far as the budget goes, we're looking to try and find sponsors for this for the show. So that's been our main objective as far as paying for it, is to reach out to, our business community here and see who's, would like to get behind us and sponsor the program, sponsor the show.
Mr. Wilson?
And
Oh,
hang on one
I
second.
was going to answer part of that question.
Oh,
about
go
what we
ahead.
talked about. I think they had also talked about, I think they had also had made a suggestion of like maybe a drone-like show where it's not like necessarily like fire and, so I think from what was explained to me, it's still in the very
Infant
low
stage.
infant stage, and as they bring more information in, then those things definitely need to be concerned, because I was concerned about like who was going to set it off as well, and I felt a little more comfortable with maybe a drone show as opposed to fire and booms and things of that nature. I just feel that's a little more controlled. Go ahead.
Any more questions?
I look forward to the answers.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Any other questions?
Respectfully, just 1 or 2 minutes. So I just want to understand who's actually spearheading this. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah,
I apologize. Kathy Curison, Devonwood Drive, 6718-45224. Who's actually spearheading this? Is this you, and do you have a committee?
So right now, it's just me working on it. You know, I have other individuals that I've been speaking with as far as the North College Hill here, you know, to try and make this happen. So as far as spearheading it, it's me. I'm working on getting this done.
That's my seat, Ms. Stokestein. Okay, and then the second question I have for you is, have you ever did a cost estimate in comparison to what other cities have done?
So we have looked at a cost estimate as far as what was provided to us so far, you know what I'm saying? But we also, you know, still have to research the cost, period, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, even with the estimate, what we estimate might not be correct. So we still have, you know, it's in the infant stage. So we're still, you know, researching everything, you know, to make it cost efficient.
Sure. And I just want to ask you one quick question in regards to Food Truck Friday. A lot of people were sad it was canceled, but let's move on. Will there be chairs and tables available? And before you answer, Mr. Davis brought up a very good point. Will there be a collaboration with North College Hill City Schools on their home games?
So I'm going to answer this, Mr. Davis. As far as the collaboration with the school and the home games, we still have to reach out to Mr. Blaylock and see if we can make that happen. So that's not a problem. You know, we'll just, you know, do what we can to reach out. As far as tables and chairs, there are. You know, Public Works provide the benches so you can sit out and, you know, enjoy the meal or whatnot. If you want to come up, grab your meal and go home. But you know, the goal is to get us out there, you know, come out and enjoy what different trucks and different foods we're able to present to you guys.
Mr. Chair,
Madam, Ms. Zork.
sorry, I want to circle back to the fireworks one more time. Ms. Curitin made me think about something. Have you reached out to like Mountain Healthy or Coleraine to see what their total budget is for their fireworks displays?
So we had individual that was able to speak to Mount Healthy. So we haven't, I don't think they were able to speak to Coleraine yet. But we, like I said, it's still in the infant stages. We're still researching and finding out,
What
you
were
know,
those
the
numbers?
cost.
What was Mount Healthy's number?
I don't give me the line, Ms. Zorb. I cannot remember what he said as far as the numbers.
All right.
Any more questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, it was just rough estimate. Very rough.
No.
I believe during our first meeting, when we discussed that, the number that was thrown out for Mount Healthy's fireworks for the 45-minute show was roughly $85,000.
And that included setup, security for a couple of days, because you need to have setup ahead of time. You need to have security on the day of the event. There's other peripheral activities that they do on the day of the event as well. So, and it's a 45-minute show.
Hello, my name is Arias Dukestein. I live at 6842 Marvin Avenue. So I just wanted to say on the fireworks, I didn't know how far you guys got with the conversation, but this is a small, tiny little plug. I don't know where it will go, but when we visited Disney Land and World, and both of them have this hieroglyphics that they put in the air to curve their cost on fireworks, and it goes in with like if you're close to the event, it has sound play. If you are far away from the event, they have like this app that you can download on your phone, and it plays in your car. So kind of like around the holidays, Christmas time, when you tune into the radio station and the music plays as the light shows. So it will, in between the big booms, are these projected images of like maybe for us, it could be like things that are going on with the school or in the city. I don't know. It just is a nice plug. And I figure if it's good enough for Disney, it's good enough for us. And it definitely brings their cost down. And they're also curving the environment the impact on the environment, because, you know, they used to have fireworks every single night. And so I was also at Busch Gardens, and I saw that there as well. So I just wanted to kind of plug that. I don't know the cost, but maybe they did it for a cost reduction. So I'm sure that it would also pose as a cost reduction for us. And it's just a rental of equipment as opposed to having to buy fireworks. So I just wanted to kind of interject that in there. That is all.
Any more questions?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Wilson, I had a quick question about the food trucks. I know that I've heard, because I watched the meeting even though I couldn't attend, and we mentioned today also having food trucks at the school events. I know that we still need to have conversations with the school district, but I do know that on some occasions, like the football team and certain sporting events, they depend on concessions for a fundraiser. So we might want to make sure that we are definitely coordinating with the school before we put food trucks out there. That might, we need to coordinate with that.
Pull away from their dollars.
It might. We would just need to coordinate and make sure that it wasn't in conflict with anything that the boosters might be doing for a fundraiser in their concessions.
Any more questions? More comments? Oh my God, it's killing me. I can't stand this. Yeah, I know my thing. Any new business? My thing went down.
The
You
no
got your
business.
other thing?
Yeah, new business to no business.
Any old business? All right. With that being said, I will end this meeting at 7:28.
All right, good evening, everyone. So we are going to postpone or delay the start of the next committee meeting, which is Budget and Finance, so that we can have a quick special city council meeting. So I will call this meeting to order. I will call the roll. Ms. Zorb?
Here.
Ms. Gaston?
Here.
Ms. Dukestein?
Present.
Ms. Alexander?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Present.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Ms. Underwood?
Here.
Okay, you have the agenda.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I move to accept the agenda as presented.
Mr.
President.
President.
I have Ms. Dukestein first.
Peter. Second.
Motion by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Dukestein to accept the agenda as presented. Any discussion? I will call the roll. Ms. Zorb?
Yes.
Ms. Gaston?
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein?
Yes.
Ms. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Underwood?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I will move that we go into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation or charges of complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I'll second that.
I do know that Mr. Dieters is joining us. Is the mayor joining us?
Yes, and Mr. Cheney is as well.
Mr. Cheney, okay. Does that go with your motion there, Ms. Zorb?
It certainly does.
Mr. President,
I got Ms. Underwood.
is the city manager, will the city manager be joining us?
It's fine. Yep.
Okay.
Mr.
Dukestein?
President, so I have another item that I was adding to this executive session that I made sure that Mr. Dieters knew that it was okay to chat about this if we want to move in. and then I can talk about that until the others get here. I'm okay with that, or if you're okay with that, that will help with time. I'm not sure. It falls underneath this, so it didn't need to be added to the agenda. It just has to be.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, I'll call the roll. Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Gaston,
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We are going to move into executive session. I'll call this meeting back to order.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb,
I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein.
I'll second that.
Motion to adjourn by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Dukestein. Any discussion? I will call the roll. Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Gaston,
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We are adjourned.
Deferred the rest of the agenda items to the next meeting. And because of the time, thank you, Ms. Anderson, for sticking around. I really appreciate that. I'm gonna let, the agenda, let me pull it up, sorry. Okay, so the, and I did not send the minutes out, but I will send them out, tonight, more than likely. The first thing on the agenda is the, finance, officially, we're starting at 9:01. The first thing on the agenda is the finance update. And I will I'll say this. So the 2025 tax budget, the last time we were meeting was August the 12th. We were still yet to file that. We have filed it successfully. Everything is together. So I rewatched the meeting today so I could make sure that I give you an adequate report. So I did say we were super, super close on the Hinkle, but we are having a contractor look at the Hinkle just to make sure, because we had so many missing numbers from 2023. So she came back with some things that we needed to investigate. That came back from her she emailed it on Friday, but we were out of the office this past Monday for Labor Day. And so by the time that Ms. Anderson was able to get those items, there were about 15 items on there. She quickly discovered what they were, and we just need to support that with documentation. And that is the last thing to be held up. I'm sure that it'll be filed this week. I wanted to be honest and transparent. We want to make sure that this document is filed adequately, because our audit strongly is hinged upon the solidness of this particular document. So if just for the notes and just making sure that you all understand, the Hinkle is not yet filed. It will be filed this week. We had some more discovery, and we were able to find all of them except for one, and that one is super, super low, like it's less than $500. And then the fire department, August monthly report.
Which is compiled in a monthly reconciliation that you will be getting every
Could you please speak into the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So the bank reconciliation is included with the reports that I sent around. We are still showing more in the bank than we are in the finance software. That's just because the revenue or the receipts have not all been accounted for yet. So we're still working on those, locating them, and getting them into the finance software, but the bank does show an inflated amount as opposed to the finance software. That is it.
Ms. Anderson, when you say, I just want to clarify inflated amount, that makes me feel like there's more in the bank than what's in CMI. But what's most accurate is CMI or the bank?
The bank is most accurate.
I'm asking that question for clarity for all.
Yes.
And then, so just to be clear, one last dig at this. For 2023, we're still fine that Hinkle. I'm sorry, the Hinkle that we are filing is for 2023. We have not yet filed for 2024. That is due December the 31st of 2024.
Correct.
So that Hinkle being completed will allow us to have better bank reconciliations and monthly reports that are closing the gap between CMI and what is in the bank. So those reconciliations, she started giving us monthly reports as of May. She started in April. From January, February, March, April, the reconciliation from 2023, she is also going to go back and make sure that you get adequate monthly reporting for January, February, March, April, and then you will also see some better reconciliation. But what we are required to do is to give a monthly report, whether it's balanced or not. Transparency is what we needed. And previously, we had not been getting monthly reports. And I think the fear, I'm not sure, the fear was that they weren't lining up. So she's been giving them regardless of whether they're lining up or not. But that was in lieu of her still working on 2023. Now that 2023 will be finished up, she can better assess 2024, and she is committed. She said to me today when I was talking to her about it, she said, you can actually just, write it up and she can credit it off. She said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to give you all the real numbers, and I want to go back and I want to put them in, and I want to give you the reports and the updates. So I wanted to help you understand why we have the discrepancy from month to month that we're currently living in, and how the Hinkle not being worked on and filed, how that's impacting up until this month of the year. And she will go back. And so again, we will have a better track record forward, but we just had to do some back work. So I just wanted to say that for clarity. And then on the agenda next is Ms. Anderson. Did you have anything else you wanted to share?
No, if anyone has any questions, I'd like to go home.
And then I know for sure Ms. Chamberlain is doing an overcap of the 2025 budget, and then she's going to pull in, they're going to work together.
Yes.
And I guess at that point, we will be presented with what it is from her macro standpoint, from her micro standpoint, and then they'll present something to us to go over. So that's something we have to look forward to. And then the part-time fire MOU. I've heard lots of feedback. I'm sorry, thank you, Ms. Anderson. I've heard lots of feedback. Citizens are frustrated that we haven't solved this. That's me. I pushed back. It's my fault. Make it my fault. The numbers were not numbering. I pushed it back, and I said, this doesn't look like the numbers that we talked about. I talked to Bill about it, and he looked at it again, and he agreed. He agreed to go back to the table with the union representative from AFSCME and the fire department. It does not look like the numbers that we agreed to and talked to. And from an integrity standpoint, I think you all would want me to do that for our city. So it's not saying that the firefighters did anything wrong. I want to remind everybody they're still in a current contract. The MOU is to set their salaries. If this goes through, they will be backdated. They're not going to miss anything that they should have. It just isn't being, it just, the numbers just don't look like they should. And so we need to table that because it is up for a third reading on our September 16th council meeting. If Mr. Dieters and Ms. Chamberlain and Ms. Anderson and myself, we're going to sit in on a bargaining with ASFME, and if that gets done before September 16th, then I will be communicating via email. Otherwise, that needs to be tabled. The other kind of glitch in the system that we had is when we were reaching out to the ASFME representative, that representative is no longer with ASFME. So we were reaching out to talk to him to set some time up, and he's not with them, and we had to wait some time to be connected to another representative. So that has also prolonged because we wanted to have it done before tonight, but that did not allow us to get it done because they were in between reps. And the only other thing on here that I feel like needs to be addressed is the Dunson Bench site and location. So the 2 items have been ordered. Dave and I looked at it. It's under the amount. It's, I think it's not even $1,500, but I've talked to the family, talked to the attorney. They've specified what they want on the 2 pieces of memorial monuments that we have. One is a rock, one is a bench. The bench will be placed in Stapleton. The rock will be placed at the site. They've already been ordered when they come in. Dave is going to give us a date where Public Works is going to go out. The family wants to come out as well. If council members can, we will also be invited. And then that is it. The only other thing that I was going to address is I know that there are a lot of questions. We opened up the committee meetings for questions and answers. When I re-listened to the past meetings, I was exhausted because we were back and forth with questions. So I wanted to set out a time in the agenda for question and answers so that we are not prolonging things that we need to talk about for audience members, so that we can kind of put it in one space, and then we can go back and answer those. So I'm going to individualize that on the agenda. Other than that, the city building update and the splash pad, the CBD projects, I'll give you just that because I have it, is Ms. Chamberlain agreed to reach out to the CDBG. I don't know why I always have problems with that acronym, but she agreed to reach out. She has and has not gotten a call back from them. We had a talk with Ms. Clear about it, myself, Ms. Chamberlain, and Ms. Clear, and Ms. Clear gave us some information and directions to how to go forward. It's just the application. Have we missed the deadline? Yes. Are we at risk of losing the money? No. We've already been granted the money. We just need to find a suitable project, and we need to do that by the fall. So we are hoping to get that done by the end of September, no later than the beginning of October. The reason we're putting a call into them is there was some understanding that we couldn't appropriate the funds a certain way. That's how we were directed. And so we've since found out that it may not be the best way to think about the information. So she's calling in to kind of check in. She has a personal connect over there, and I wanted to trust her with that personal connect to give us the information so that we can best make a decision on how to use the money. It's still the 2 projects out there that we talked about. That hasn't changed. So that is that. And then I will...
Can you refresh my memory on the 2 projects?
Mm-hmm. The 2 projects were a swimming pool and a
swimming pool?
Well, splash pad / swimming pool, and then one of the buildings, like this building for the roof. And so we had initially been talking about that it couldn't be used for the splash pad, and so
I thought that was the whole premise, is we're taking the money from the splash pad.
I'm sorry.
I thought that was the whole debacle to begin with, is we wanted to take the money from the splash pad. Now we're putting it back?
It was the debacle was that we couldn't use it for the splash pad because
Right,
we
and
didn't
then
have
still
enough
use
time.
State funds. It's,
Yep, and then that's why Ms. Chamberlain is calling to verify. It really may or may not be, at the end of the day, this building is going to need a roof repair. We are in this building, we need this building to stay functional. More than likely, the funds will be used for this building, because it's the right decision. But those were our two projects. So we said splash pad or this building. So I said, give us two. Those were the two that we chose. So I'm confused of why you guys are frustrated.
it doesn't matter.
Go ahead. We're done, but that was the last thing on our thing. We don't have any new or old business. So if you
mentioned one thing regarding the city building update.
we're not doing that tonight because it's so heavy. There's no way we can have a short conversation about it.
Ms. Zorb, I don't want to even start because it's a prolonged, but Ms. Zorb, if you want to address it, maybe we're on the same page, I don't know. If not.
I just didn't understand how we could put it back into the splash pad. I thought we had several other, but I missed a meeting, so maybe I missed a lot of information. So that's why I'm not pushing my issue. Actually, here, I'll back up. Sorry, I'm not using my words very well. I noticed at the car show that a lot of our crosswalks are in incredible disarray. The bricks are a mess, and since we are a walking community for the school kids, it seems like it's a hazard, a tripping hazard for the kids to walk on those crosswalks. I was wondering if we could even look at repairing the crosswalks with that CDBG money.
Okay.
But if that ship has sailed, I don't want to reopen a can of worms that's.
I'll say this. So initially, there were some concerns about whether or not we could use the CDBG funds towards the splash pad. When we revisited it and looked at the stipulations in the packet, it looked like we could. So yes, it looked like we could. What I will tell you is, I said the last time we were thinking about this building and the roof repairs, but I did not want to say this out loud in the microphone, and I think I'd said that we have now since learned that this building does not qualify for insurance to repair it. We were not sure at that time, and I didn't want to say it through the microphone because we had not verified that, and we were still trying to get adjusters to let us know what we were able to do. So we need to think of it in terms of level of importance. And this building has an immediate need, and Mr. Hoffman so graciously texted me to tell me that he's speaking to Ms. Zorb's concern. He says the sidewalks are already being fixed when the Galbraith Road project takes place next
The voice
year.
of the great beyond.
So that helps to kind of solve.
So they're being addressed.
Yes,
They
they're
are.
being
That's
addressed,
what
and
the,
so that's
Galbraith
the when we bring out these great ideas.
About real-time solutions. Thank you, Mr. Huffman.
When we bring out these great, yes, thank you, Mr. Huffman. When we bring out these great ideas, so that's what is sometimes it seems like we're throwing a bunch of stuff out there. There are like this building, we were unsure of whether it was an insurance claim, so I wanted to kind of put a pause on that. I didn't want to say that out loud. If I say, well, we're trying to see if it's an insurance claim, and the insurance company comes back and says, of course it's not. You know, at that point, we needed to let them make the decision based on that. And so now that has kind of shifted the priorities, because if, let's say, this was an insurance claim, that this wouldn't have even been an option, right? Then we would have maybe went to her idea, and that's not an option either, where we would kind of gone back to the splash pad. That's why I was asking you to come up with multiple projects. Go ahead, I'm so sorry.
If I may, so to be very clear, the CDBG, that's Community Development Block Grants, that is HUD funding. It's actually federal funding, and it's dictated by federal guidelines. There are like 4 areas of concerns. You're going to have your LMI communities, that's low to moderate income, your senior citizens, I believe there's children, and there's reduction of blight. And then public utilities can also fall in that if like you need to increase your linear footage of water lines or sewage lines. So unfortunately, crosswalks wouldn't fall into that. However, there are several other state and local grant opportunities that we could look at for crosswalks and pedestrian improvements. In fact, those are a lot easier to get, and they have far less stipulations. So, Ms. Orb, if you would like for me to look into that, I can do that and get the staff started on the grants. I probably wouldn't be here by the time they'd have to be submitted, but I could give them kind of the template on how to apply. As far as CDBG goes, it's very, very strict in what it can be used for. The reason that we're making the phone call is because we did have to write a grant. These funds were allocated probably, I'm guessing, through the state to Hamilton County. Hamilton County, in their program, has allocated funding to different cities upon application. So we need to see what the application specifically said and kind of the parameters for that. Once we get clarification, Ms. Dukestein can bring that back to you all. And if there's any other wiggle room for decisions, at that point you all can have those discussions, but I'll make sure everything's clearly lined out for you. I'm very, very appreciative to Annalise. She's done a wonderful job, but she was kind of tossed into this role, and she doesn't have a long-term understanding of how this works. So I appreciate what she's done. I think she was kind of flying blind too for a little bit with this. So she did a great job, and now we're just going to get the final clarification on it.
Any other questions?
Respectfully, Madam Chair, may I ask my question very quickly? Just want to get yes or no questions answered. Do we have 3 bids or any bids for the restoration of the city center?
Yes.
Yes. And can you tell me if you said that the $55,000 CDBG grant will go for the restoration of this roof, or is that for the city center's roof?
That would be for the senior building roof.
The senior roof. And last question for you.
That would be one of the projects. The roof I'm referring to is this one.
Okay, and this is also just a simple yes or no question in respect of the time. Do we have a dollar number of what it will cost, just yes or no, to repair this roof and or the city center's roof?
Yes.
Okay, and last question, will those dollar amounts be made available in 2 weeks at our next finance and budget meeting? Yes or no? On paper.
So this one here, I can tell you the estimate is roughly around $53,000 for this one, and the one down there is going to depend. It's not hasn't even been bidded out. It's so to clarify your question, there aren't bids, but there are quotes and there are assessments. We don't have any bids because we haven't made it that far in our legislative process. I'm sorry.
To clarify, are we referring to the city center stating that there are no bids at all?
The city center does not have any bids. It has evaluations and quotes. So let me clarify in terms of a language or vocabulary. There are no bids. We have to get quotes first, and that's what we have done. There are no bids. Bids is like putting in, okay.
Clarify, are those quotes on paper made available to constituents and all of council?
No, they have not been, and thus far, the council has to review them first.
Can you confirm again, yes or no, if you expect for council to review that prior to the next Budget and Finance Committee meeting?
Not prior, but at. Not all 3 or not all 4, but they will review another one. Any other questions? Council members? It's been a pleasure. Thank you all. And we will adjourn at 9:23.